Alright guys, this is going to be a walkthrough on the Best Choice Jeeps. Alright, this is actually the setup that you would have inside your Jeep. Okay, a little bit different because typically you have a different module here. Alright, this is one that I got online through Amazon. This is actually an RX30. Alright, but I do have, I'm sorry, this is an RX-19 stock from Amazon. But I do have an RX30, which is the 24 volt model, which is the exact same plug setup that we have here, though it does come with the stock harness with the extra pin that you do need for the high-low switch. So let's do a little quick walkthrough of what you have here and how everything works. So first things first, you have your 12 volt battery. Okay, this is your charging system right here. Okay, this is obviously your motor gearbox that comes into the first port here. Your first actual port here is for the power. Second port is for your motor. On this version you have a secondary port for another motor, which I don't have plugged in, and then your fourth port is for the steering. On the opposite side you're going to have your wiring harness. Okay, this wiring harness feeds all of your pedal, your forward, reverse, stop, your power switch, your radio, your lights, your high-low switch, pretty much all your electronics. Now I don't have a radio or any lights to hook up to this, so we'll kind of go through just the 24 volt portion. Okay, I do have a 24 to 12 volt regulator that we'll install. Just for those that are confused on how you hook that up, we'll take care of that. So to start it off, you have this yellow wire. Okay, and if you follow the yellow wire on this pin here, pin 1, this comes all the way down and comes up to your high-low switch. Now typically on a lot of the 12 volt models you won't have this first pin. Okay, it'll be empty. Though, like I had in my other description, you can get a LiPo 6S battery cable that's pretty much the exact same thing that's here. Okay, the only difference is there's only one red wire, the rest of them are black, so you're not going to get this nice color-coded harness. Okay, but it does come with every pin, though you still won't be using pin number 5. All the other pins are used, and you get that extra pin here if you don't want to solder something in. Okay, then you have your pin 2, which is your orange wire. That comes up to your shifter. Okay, that's actually your reverse. Okay, then you have a blue wire, that's pin number 3. That comes down, that's actually your forward. Okay, now all this stuff works on pin switches, meaning when ground is applied to any of these switches, okay, to these wires, so the orange wire with the blue wire, if you touch ground to them, it activates it inside the speed control, which makes the connection to tell the speed control, yes, I want to go forward, yes, I want to go backward, or no, I don't want to go anywhere at all because nothing's connected. Okay. The fourth pin we have here is the ground wire. You trace this all the way up. You got the black wire comes into here. Now on this version, it goes into a high-low switch. Now, on the other models, you won't have a high-low switch. It'll go into a on-off switch, like a flip switch. All right. On that flip switch is going to be pretty much the same as this, except it's not a high-low. They just have all the grounds tied into this. Okay. Ground's ground. Okay, so you can tie all your grounds together regardless. That ground goes up to here. Okay, now pin number 6 is your white wire. Now that actually comes up here and that feeds your power wire. Okay, that is your power switch. All right, and then, well, that's actually your power out switch, I should say. Okay, now your red one is your power in switch. That actually comes from the speed control, comes down through here, goes to your switch. When you turn the switch on, it goes out here to the white and all these red wires here. So this white wire and this red wire now have power when you hit this button, which I do have it plugged in. I don't know if you could see that. So now this is powered on. You actually now have 12 volts coming back down through this. That tells the speed control, okay, I'm good. And this white wire, the white wire tells it that I'm good, okay, and it automatically powers on all this other stuff. Now this stuff is going to be connected to probably your radio, gauge lights, maybe you have headlights or something, whatever the car comes with. Typically you got a couple of gauges or something, some sort of lighting and radio setup. All right, that's all 12 volts. All right. So now with that being said, you have all that stuff, right? So now we'll go into the individual parts. Okay. You have the steering. This is the steering switch. Steering switch is just a positive and negative. It switches the polarities inside the speed control. Okay. For those who do have the remote control, okay, the remote control, you can actually steer the car almost like an RC car. Okay, that's what this wire's for. Do you need it? No. If your kid knows how to drive the ride-on, then you'll be fine. You don't need that. It's just kind of for beginners. Okay, and most likely if you're upgrading to 24 volts, they don't need it anyway. The next part we can go to is the pedal. So here's your just basic pedal. It's a 2-wire. Okay, pretty much all this pedal does is when you push on this, it connects these 2 wires inside this pedal. So it just makes just a connection. Okay. Now a lot of people ask me, what do I do with how do I hook this up? Do I have to change wires? No. It's a ground wire. It's technically hooked up to the black wire, which is pin number 4. Okay, and if a lot of you are just modifying the current setup, you don't even have to touch any of this stuff. I'm just explaining what's going on. So the unit's powered on, you have your ground set up here, you step on this, okay? So you got ground that's coming up through here to the pedal, you say go, it comes up through here, and now you're telling it which way to go. Are you going forward, are you going reverse, or are you not connecting to anything? If you flip it up, you connect to this blue wire, and that's going to tell you that you're going forward. If you click it back, you're going to now connect this brown and orange wire together. That's going to tell the speed control that you want to go backwards, okay? And that's all that does. It's just a forward and backward, okay? So that's pretty much the shifter and the pedal work as one. This is telling it I'm ready to go, and this tells it am I going forward or backward when I step on this switch. Obviously you guys know what a power switch is, okay? Otherwise you probably wouldn't even be viewing this video. So power switch, you have the one ground coming into here, and then you have your two powers, I'll say, okay? This is your main power coming in, and then this is your power going out. So when you click this button on, these are now all charged, okay? These all have 12 volts going to them. All right. High-low switch. High-low switch is if you did not have an RX-19 or an RX-30 24-volt model, and you have a lesser model, okay, a 12-volt model or something like that, or I think they even make 6-volt ones. Whatever the case, they don't come with a high-low switch. That's this extra wire here, okay? The only difference with the high-low switch, when you add this in and you add this wire in, you have to connect it to a ground. So you have this whole ground set up here. If this switch wasn't here, like I said before, it would be going to an on-off switch. You wouldn't have this, okay? And this yellow wire wouldn't be here. You'd probably have some sort of power wire. It'd be going to lights, probably be going to these lights or something like that. Though this one already has the high-low switch set up, what happens is when it's in low mode, this yellow wire gets connected to the ground. So the ground connects to the yellow in low mode, and it sends a signal to the speed control, and it dumbs down the voltage on the 24 volt model. On this model, it probably makes it go from 12 volts, and it probably dumbs it down to like 6 or 8 volts, or brings it drops the voltage down to slow the vehicle down. So on high mode, okay, that breaks the contact. So the yellow wire is now not connected to ground. When it's not connected to ground, it's going to be at full speed. So if you have a 12 volt model, it's going to be 12 volts. If you have a 24 volt model, it's going to be 24 volts. So if you go and you do a 24 volt setup and you don't have a high-low switch installed, your option will be 24 volts all the time unless you are using the remote. Okay? Which means that every time your kid goes out there, you have to sit there, you have to turn that on and make sure they're running with whatever. There's like 3 speeds on the remote. You'll have to make sure that works. All right? So typically most people like to install a high-low switch. They can put the 24 volt setup in. They leave the car 12 volts, and then when they feel that the kid is ready for the speed upgrade, flip of a switch gives you the speed that you want. Okay? So now, like I said before, this was the 6S LiPo plug that if you didn't have this particular model, you're going to be missing that pin. You can buy these. You can get them in a 10 pack for like $10 or something. This is the voltage regulator. I got a few of these. They were cheap, probably for like 10 or 12 bucks. Okay, I'll solder this in real quick and I'll kind of show you guys what that does. Okay, and these are just a couple of wires that I cut for this. Okay, and we have the RX30 here, which is brand new in the package here with the remote. I always get them with the remote just in case, if I'm doing them for somebody, somebody needs something done. All right, and that's the RX30 model. You can see it right here. All right, and you can see the difference in size. All right. So pretty much that's the setup we're going to go with. Now, I know a lot of people, I've heard people say, oh, well, can you plug 12 volts into the 24 volt model? Will it work? Some people say it works. I don't know. I never tried it. We can try it tonight and see what happens. And we'll go from there. All right. So I'm going to get this set up here and we'll do a 12 volt conversion. Okay, so this regulator is now complete. you can see it's hooked up to 24 volts. Okay, now I have two batteries here ran in series. For those of you that don't know what series is, you take two batteries, you take the positive and the negative from one from each battery, you tie it together, and you're left with one positive and one negative. Okay, so instead of having 12 volts, you'll now have 24 volts with the two 12-volt batteries. So now we have this hooked up. You have 24 volts going from here into the regulator. On the other side of the regulator, I'm going to check, and the meter says that we are at 24.2 volts. Okay, so that's a little high, and we're going to need to turn that down. So there's a little tiny brass screw here. Okay, and you're going to have to turn that probably a few times before you start seeing a change. Okay, typically once you start seeing the change in it, it's not too long after that you'll start to get it to where you need it to go. So I don't know if you guys can see this, but it's now at 20.9 volts, and we are going to take this down to what the stock reading is at around 12.8, 12.6. You can go 13 if you want, 12.8, 12.9. Typically you're only running LEDs and a radio, so as long as you're around the 12 volt portion, you'll be fine. Alright, so we're at 12.7, so that's fine. Okay, so that regulator set, that's easy. Alright, now once that's set, don't need these batteries anymore. Let's get these out of the way. Okay, we're actually going to use those in a minute when we do the conversion. Okay, so we can hook these up now. So now pretty much I disconnected the old, what was connected to the 12 volt battery, which is now 24. Okay, so I'm going to do positive to positive, or negative to negative, positive to positive. Okay, and now this is 24 volts. Okay, now this speed controls only 12 volts, so this will be taking this out, removing this, pulling this out. Like I said, we don't really need the steering anymore, so I'm just going to put that to the side, put the motor to the side for now, and we're going to add in the RX30. Okay, and now I'll put this to the side. Now the clips are a little different on the versions, so you may have to trim or break off the portion where these slide down. So you can do one of two things. You can either trim this off the clip and slide it on, or you can trim this down lower so this sits flush. On these, if you pick up a pack of these because you don't have this type of harness, okay, these pretty much fit right in, and they'll just kind of push that blue piece kind of out of the way, and you're good to go. You don't really have to mess with it too much. If you want to make it, you can notch off a little piece of the blue here, okay, and then it'll slide down perfect, and you'll see what I mean when you get them. All right, so now let's see how if this clips in nice here. Should get us down to enough for the video at least. Yeah, okay, so it doesn't clip all the way down because that clip's in the way, but it's good enough for now to show you guys what's going on. So now, with all this being said, all right, I'm gonna plug this in. Yeah, so this is gonna get, oh, there you go. So now we got 24-volt setup. Okay, so right now there's no electronics on this. This is just your switches, your pedal, power switch, and your high-low. Okay, now if we were to take this here, let me see if I can get a pin here to check this. Any of these, we're going to have, we should have, I'm going to have to do it on two different pieces here, 24 volts when we turn the power switch on. So right now, you see we're at 0. We turn this on, 26.5 volts, okay? You know, you hit the pedal, nothing's going to happen. I don't have the motor in, but if we did put the motor in, you would see, oh, I got to put it in gear. You would see that that works. And then you can do the low speed, okay, and that works. All right, so there you go. So now at this point, you are now at 24 volts, okay? Now, I don't recommend that you go and use your 12 volt gearboxes and motors. Get the 24 volt kit. It comes just like this. It doesn't have the plugs on it, okay? It's just going to be, it's going to look just like this, and it's going to be a gearbox with the motor already in it, and it's 24 volts. You can get them on Amazon, they're cheap. Pick yourself up a pair and just replace them. It takes 2 seconds to take the wheels off and put the new gearboxes and motors in. Saves you a lot of time. If you get a bad set, you can return them to Amazon and get a new set. They really don't bother anybody. Okay, so with that being said, so now we have 24 volt setup, right? We have the two 12 volt batteries ran in series. We upgraded the speed control now to the what's now the RX30. Okay, so now we're at a RX30 now. Okay, we have everything is still stock. Okay, and this is how it is in all the Jeeps. A lot of people always ask me, do I have to upgrade the wiring? Do I have to upgrade the wiring? Do I have to upgrade the wiring? The only wiring that you really need to upgrade if you wanted to would be the not the steering switch, but the motor switch, the motor plugs. So this is the stock motor plug. Okay, the wires are you know, not as thick as, say, Power Wheels are. Definitely a lot thicker, though I've never had a problem. I've never melted a wire or anything like that, because this is all ground trips on the speed control. There's really no power per se running through these, other than to tell the speed control to turn on, because your direct power comes into here, goes into the relay, and then these wires tell it what to do, and then it relays the power through these ports here, which go to your motors. So as long as your power in and your power out going to your motor wires are all up to par, the rest of the stock harness you can leave stock. You don't need to touch anything. All right, now we're going to jump into adding in the 12 volt regulator from 24 to 12, and we're going to drop this harness here, which is typically connected to your radio and lights and whatever else you plan to install or already have installed. So you can do one of two things with the high-low switch when you're installing it. You could either, one, you can redo all these wires, meaning like take them off here, take it off the high-low, split it up and just do one section, right? Because everybody's always like, well, what about this ground wire? If you want, you can keep it this separate, have this only go to here, and then all the other wires that come out can now go into here, and same thing with the power wire. The white wire and the red wire have to stay going to the switch as is, 24 volt. When it comes off, you have all these other little wires that go to your 12 volt accessories, radio, lights, like we said. All those electronics are still 12 volts. You now have 24 volts going to them. We're now going to add this here, okay, if that makes sense. So what we're going to do to make it easy is we're literally going to leave everything the way it is on the switches, and that we know that all this stuff goes to the radios and the lights and whatever else. We're literally going to cut it just like this. Okay? Now, you can see that. Now, this is our 24 volt ends here. Okay? And this is where we want our 12 volt to begin. I'm going to add this regulator in between here. Alright? So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to splice all these back. Okay? Trim all these back. I'm going to solder them in. And we're going to solder this adapter right into here. Now you guys don't have to put tails on it. You can literally, if you want to mess with it, you can go right to here, but the tips are a little small. Alright? But we're going to do that. We'll do that real fast. Okay? And we'll be right back, and we'll show you what that looks like. Okay, so now we're complete with the soldering in of the regulator. So now everything's the same. We've upgraded the batteries to 24 volt. Okay, ran in series. Two 12 volt batteries ran in series to give us 24 volts. Okay, to the new speed control, which is now the RX30 with the harness. If you need, like we said before, you can get the upgraded one, the stock upgraded harness, which comes with the RX-19, or you can get the aftermarket LiPo harness. You can get those on Amazon. All the wires come in. Your pedal is still stock. We haven't touched that. It's just a loop wire that controls your shifter. It goes up to the high-low switch. Now the only thing we changed was we cut those wires that go to your lights and your radio. Okay, we cut the grounds going to them, and we cut the powers going to them. We soldered in, got the input to the regulator. We tuned it to 12 volts. Now it's going out, and now your radio lights now have 12 volts. Now if everything goes according to plan, we should be able to test these points right here. This will give us our 12. This side will be 24. Okay, so let's do that now. We have everything plugged in. I'm going to give it the power switch. You see the green light here. That tells us that we have power going to the regulator, and we should have 12 volts going to that. I'm going to set up my voltmeter here. Now, like I said before, everything here has 24 volts. We test this. We have 26.5 volts. We jump to the other side. We have 12.7 volts. Okay. Which means that all this whole harness here now has 12 volts. So now when you turn on your truck, okay, you power this button on, okay, you turn your button on, everything gets the power that it needs. Speed control and your motors get 24 volts. Okay, you see this turns on. When we turn on the light, that's gonna turn on your radio and your lights. That's where you get the fake car ignition sound when it starts up. That will control, that comes out of your radio. So all that stuff stays the same. You get the sound effects, the lights, everything stays the same. If you don't have a high-low switch, you can install one. You see how easily it's installed. For those who don't have it, remember this yellow wire here, it's pin 1. It doesn't come on a lot of the models stock, so you either get the LiPo clip or you can buy the whole kit, which I don't think you need to buy, but you can do it if you want. And it comes pretty much as you see here. It comes with everything. It comes with a new switch, a new harness, pedal, the whole deal. And then you would just have to make the modifications that I did. You have to buy the regulator, speed control, secondary battery, and a little bit of skills, soldering, a couple little pieces there, and you're good to go. Now I know in my other video I had the quick connect pins for this. I put quick connects on there because if this ever goes bad for some reason, it's an open, it's an open chipboard. You can get other ones. There's newer ones out there that are enclosed. If this part ever goes bad, I can just unplug it, solder a new piece onto the one I have, and then just clip it into the car real easy. This way I'm not in the car working on it. I can physically take it out, do the work on it, put it back in. And that's pretty much it, guys. That's the BestChoice Jeep rundown on the wiring here. If you guys have any questions on anything, if you want to see me do a video on something else completely different. Now this, just so you guys know, this setup can pretty much be installed on any ride-on. You can take this and put this in a Power Wheels. You can take this and put this in a Peg Pergo. I've already done it. It works fine. The only issues that I ever ran into with this speed control and this setup was the Traxxas motors. Trying to use the 18 volt Titans that everybody uses, 24 volts on Power Wheels and things like that. When you put a Titan motor on these speed controls, though they can be ran at overvolted and ran at 12 volts, the speed control picks up that it's overvolted and deems it as an issue, and it has an internal shut off, and it will lock you out, and then you have to wait 10 seconds and then it kicks back on, and you're going to be banging your head up against the wall. So when you do that, do yourself a favor, don't put Titan motors in anything that has a speed control, because you may run into an issue. Those are typically run direct voltage, meaning power to the pedal and pedal to the battery, and that's typically how your average Power Wheels is ran. If you guys got any questions, feel free to comment below, and feel free to subscribe. And thanks for watching, guys. Hope this helps.